Hello. Today we are going to be going over the very basics of Excel. This is our very first tutorial. So what we're going to be doing is really just focusing on formatting a data set, making it look nice and pretty so that we can do our analysis, which we'll go over in later videos. So the data that we're going to be using throughout this series is actually going to be the COVID-19 data from the European CDC. So I figured it'd be something topical that we could all learn something from. So as you can see right here, it's a pretty simple data set. So we've got cases daily, deaths, and it's split out by country, by date. I know this might be a little bit morbid, but I think it's something that we all probably could benefit from learning a little bit more about. So to start off, let's just go ahead and get this data set downloaded. So I'm going to close out of this and we'll download it in real time. So you can see here, it's from the European CDC. It's the geographic distribution of COVID-19 cases worldwide. So all you have to do to access it, I'll share a link, but if you just want to search it on yourself, you search COVID data spreadsheet eCDC, you can see it right there. And it's going to be the very first link. So you see this brings us right back to the same website. So we're going to download that. It's going to pop up right over here. Open that up, and it should look just like the data we were looking at a minute ago. So yeah, we've got the same data here. So this is for March 29th, 2020. So whatever day you're following along, the data will probably look a little different, might have some more information, but it should be the same format. So we can see just from looking at this, let's first of all start by expanding the cells so that we can see the titles. So what I just did there, if you're not familiar, is all you have to do is double click, highlight the cells and double click, and then it automatically spaces them out. So you can see here, we've got the date, and it's from most recent to least recent. And then we've got a detailed breakdown, so the day, the month, the year, the number of cases that happened that day or that were recorded that day. So we can see, for example, in Afghanistan, on March 29th, there were 15 new cases and 1 new death reported. So let's start by just making this table look a little more presentable so that, for reporting purposes or just for our testing, it's not an eyesore. So the first thing that I would recommend is let's just add some formatting up top. So what you do there, you're going to go to the Home tab up here, and we'll go over to cell styles. And I like blue, so let's go with the blue accent 5. Okay, and then let's add some actual borders to these cells. So what we can do is select all the cells here. You can see that's all the way down to the bottom of the list. And we'll go right over here and we'll add all borders. So that'll put borders around each cell. All right, so it's already starting to look a little better. And then let's get rid of these grid lines too. Cool, so now we have our data formatted in a little bit more presentable of a format. If you want to go a step further, you can go back to Home, select All. Another way that you can do this is a shortcut. You can do Control A. So that selects all of our cells all the way down to row 7,516. So that's the end of it. Come back up to the top. And then we can go to Format as Table. We've got all these different formats. Let's try this one. It's pretty similar to what we already have. You can see it's showing our selection of cells. So it's from cell A1, which A1 right here, all the way to J7516. So J and then 7516 is our bottom cell, our bottom row. And it's going to go ahead and format that for us. And there we go. And it even added in filters, which is great. But let's actually undo that, and we'll cover how to add a filter later. But so here we are with our table. Now, as we scroll down, you can see that, first of all, the headers disappear. So something we can do about that is we can actually freeze the top cell. So if we go back to View, Freeze Panes, Freeze Top Row, you'll see that this is now going to be fixed. So as I scroll down, we know what we're dealing with. So that's very useful and it comes in handy all the time. Something else I'd like to do is things are all to the left or centered. I want to make that uniform. So we can go back over to Home And then we've got, if you're familiar with Word, it's pretty much the same. So it's just where things are located indentation wise. So we can do here, bring everything to the center. So now it's looking a little cleaner, a little more uniform. So now, there's a lot of information here, but it's hard to really tell what it all means. So what we can do is apply a filter. So we'll apply it across the rows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of these cells across the top. I'm going to come up here to data, and then I'm going to select filter. Okay, so you see these little triangle drop downs pop up on all the cells. And now it's making it, the title's kind of hard to read. So we'll do the same thing we did before, highlight all the cells, double click in between. Okay, so there, we're looking pretty good now. So what are the filters used for? Well, we can look at any cell. Let's start with the countries and territories. So all we see here is Afghanistan, right? All the cases in Afghanistan from New Year's Eve of 2019 through the present. And it's the same thing for each country. So now we have Angola, Albania. But I'm in the United States, so I want to see what's going on here. So let's go to United States. So you see what I did here. To run through one more time, I clicked on this drop down, and I just went to search. Now you can actually sort through them pretty easily here, just scrolling down. But you can also type in what you want to find here. It makes it a lot quicker. So I'll go to United, and for some reason there's these underscores. But so United States. Okay, so far we have two. We have United States of America and United States Virgin Islands. So if we click OK, it's going to show us the both of those. So you see US Virgin Islands and USA. So let's go back, select all again. So bring it back to where we were originally. What we can also do is unselect all and then say we just want to see Albania. There we go. But again, we want to see United States of America. So we'll type that in. And there it is. So we actually want to unselect the Virgin Islands, and that'll give us just the USA. So cool. That was a kind of a long way of getting to it, but here we have what is the most relevant, which is US data. So going all the way down, we can scroll through. And so here we have our very first data point. So when we started recording cases in the US on December 31st of 2019, scrolling back up to the top, all the way through to the present. Now this is working from the most recent to the least recent. So let's say, for example, we want to switch that around. So we go over here to the date field, and now Excel has already picked up that this is a date. So you can sort from oldest to newest, or newest to oldest. So we're currently newest to oldest. Let's flip it around. So now we're starting at the very first recorded day. And we can see, so we can kind of see the story here now, right? So following through the dates, we can see the cases and the deaths. So we see the first recorded case happen right here. And so that seems, that seems important. So let's actually highlight that. What we can do is we can go to home and we can apply. There we go. So that way we just know that it's there, right? So this is the first recorded case. And scrolling down, so no more cases. And there was another case on January 25th. And let's find the first death that occurred. So we can see all the way through to March 1st. That's when we had our first death. So let's also highlight that. So give it the same color, because these are some important dates. So now the last thing that we would want to do here. So let's just break it down in a very simple way so that we see the first case and the first death. So now what we can do is we can sort by color, or we can filter by color. So let's start with sorting by color. We highlighted those columns or those rows. So now we can sort there and they pop up to the top. What we can also do is filter by color. So now that leaves us with just these two. So we see the first case and the first death. Now, one final thing that I want to go over in this lesson is flash fill on Excel. So first of all, let's clear all these filters. So I set a filter on this field and I set a filter on this one. What you can do is you can go clear the filters individually. So there we can see, oops. Here, let's go over here. So we'll clear the filter here. What we can also do is if we set multiple filters, so let's say we're setting for 2020 and just in February and only in Austria. So that gives us a very narrow data set, and it's hard to kind of remember where you set all the filters sometimes. So something that we can easily do is just come up here to clear, and that gets rid of all of our filters across all of the rows. So the last thing I want to go over is the flash fill feature. So let's say we want to index everything here. So we want to make sure that each row has a unique identifier. So for example, if I want, if I want to filter for a specific instance in Afghanistan, if I filter for Afghanistan, it's still going to show all the cells. So what we can do here is we can say 1, 2, 3. So just assigning them row numbers. And then with Excel, what you can do is you can highlight this and then double click here in the corner. So you see that bold dark cross, double click that, and it auto fills all the way down to the end. Let's call this, let's call it index. Let's just name it that. So, and then the format carries over here, but we can see that the format for these cells has not carried over here. So what we can do to make it all look nice and uniform is let's click on this field because it has the formatting that we want. We go over to home, click format painter, okay? And then we'll select this entire column and it should auto apply that formatting. So there we go. And that'll come in handy later. But so anyhow, that's our very first lesson. In the next one, we're going to start getting into some more complicated concepts. So that'll include pivot tables, functions, things like that. And hopefully by the end of this series, you'll really have a solid grasp on some Excel foundations. So hope to see you in the next video.